Cheers.
Cheers. All right.
Okay.
Welcome to the chaos.
There was a lot of chaos before the cameras went on. Hi, I'm Lorrie.
And I'm Mel.
Hello. How are you doing?
I'm swell. I am just going through the motions today, as I have been in the last few days because of this rat beef. I'm completely enthralled by it and amused, and
I'm not paying attention to it whatsoever.
it has taken over my life in the best way. I'm very, very amused. But yeah, other than that, I'm good. Cheer, Travis.
I'm truly have not paid attention to the rat beef whatsoever. I mean, it comes up in my FYP, but like truly, I just
it's good stuff. When will it end? I don't know. Do I want it to end? Not really.
Well, it's Drake and Kendrick. I almost said Jake. I'm like, who the fuck's Jake from State Farm?
Yeah, Jake,
obviously.
Jake from State Farm.
He was hanging around with Drake for a while, so maybe it is Jake from State Farm. Yeah,
Jake from State Farm has been pretty famous lately. Shout out to Jake, making his rounds. But yeah, it's Kendrick and Drake. Kendrick is just going off. I feel like he's really upset. He really does not like this guy, Aubrey.
I mean, there's a lot of people who don't be liking Aubrey, Jimmy.
Yeah. There's but I'm trying to figure out if it's just hate or if it's the truth. All these allegations. I'm not sure how. I don't know if you're that updated on it, but there's been a lot of pretty serious allegations coming from Kendrick, and I'm just trying to figure out where's the truth, if there's truth, if it's rumors, if it's just petty rat beef. You know what I mean? I just don't get it. But
I saw a meme that was like, what's really interesting about rat beefs is that it's grown-ups making angry poetry at each other.
Yeah, that's what everyone's saying. Someone said it's just a poetry slam. It's
a poetry slam. There needs to be snaps at the end of it.
Some girl on TikTok said they just need to go to brunch. Just need to go to brunch. Let's just go to brunch.
Yes.
They need to figure this out and go to brunch. J. Cole said, "No, thank you. I won't go to brunch with you. But you guys do your thing. You fight at brunch."
I find it fascinating how involved people are getting with rat beefs and everyone's trying to read into things. What?
I guess I feel like I didn't really know certain things. But I've learned so much in the last week of this, the way that Kendrick is he's going off and he has all of these subliminal messages in his lyrics about Drake and so many other people too, in Drake's camp. And I think it's just fun just to dissect it and just to see people dissect it. I think that's the most amusing part of it, because I'm
I guess it's reality TV. It's almost like reality TV, but through songs.
Yes, but yeah, that's been my weekend. I want to say my weekend. How about you? How's your weekend been? How's your week been?
Me and Charlie have been on a scary movie binge.
Scary movie?
Yeah, I like scary movies. So, not the franchise scary movie, but the horror movies.
Right. Yeah.
Not the though I could watch scary movies. I haven't watched those in a long time. How many scary movies are there?
I feel like there's 6 or 7 of those.
Something like that. Some shit like that. Yeah, just been watching those. Just doing more stuff around the apartment as per usual. It's always a mess, and always something going on. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Cool.
In terms of my transition into what our topic is, I am looking forward to May, which means we're gonna go to our WNBA games. Woo! Yeah.
Very exciting.
Preseason had started. There's been a couple of games. So some of the rookies have played their first WNBA games, and the first home game for the New York Liberty is the 18th. So I'm going to that with Charlie.
Okay, all right.
And we're going on my birthday.
Yes.
But yeah, and going into just women's sports in general, I mean, that's kind of what our topic is today. Kind of a little bit of everything women's sports. We might do another episode of it too. Just like, I think this might just be a jumpstart of it because. So I've talked about it a million times. People are probably tired of it, but I did play. I worked in sports for 7 years. I mean, even in my freelance career, I did actually. I did do a thing for women's sports. There is Asia Wilson. She's a WNBA player, and she had a podcast with another WNBA player that I forgot what it was. This was a few years back, though, but I had, like, branded their podcast and did the graphics for it a little while back. For a company that an old coworker worked at called Just Women's Sports.
Dude, I just checked the seats in your section, and there are none available. There are resale tickets. Yeah, the ones that are available.
They were relatively cheap when I first checked them, but like I said, I think after the rookies played their first WNBA game, I think it got a little popular.
Yeah,
because they were
little. Like, we're still gonna enjoy the game, regardless. First WNBA game, okay, it's gonna be lit. So I didn't know the strength of the WNBA fans. I guess now I know.
I will say, I guess going into our topic, just the resurgence. I mean, so one of the top rookie of the year right now, the top pick was Caitlin Clark. She is on the Indiana Fever. She played at Iowa State. Iowa State?
Okay, yes. I keep seeing her everywhere.
Yeah, so she was basically the top pick. And
Rookie of the year.
And it's kind of like it brought a lot of audiences to like women's college basketball this past season. And then so when she went up for the WNBA draft, it was like a pretty big thing. But a lot of players are pretty big. Angela Reese, who's on the Chicago Sky, that's the game that we're going to see on my birthday. She's pretty well known. Carmela Cardoso is another pretty high pick. There's a lot of other players on different teams. I specifically wanted to see a Sparks game.
So what makes Caitlin Clark that special? Because she got drafted.
She's a good player. Like, if college sports in general, obviously male college sports are a huge thing. It's $1 billion industry. Just also college players don't get paid by colleges, which is a little bit rough. They basically are given a scholarship, but if you fuck up in any way, you lose everything, which is a whole other conversation. But you get money basically from like sponsors and deals or whatever. But and she's just a very good player, like a really, really great player in general. And it's kind of brought this resurgence of like fans coming to the WNBA, which is well needed, but not that the WNBA has ever been bad. That's another part of the conversation I'll bring up, but it's just giving a good attention to female players. Because aside from Caitlin Clark, there have been a lot of really interesting players to watch in college basketball in general. And the past season for college basketball, Caitlin Clark's last season there was a lot of good games, and there was just a lot of competition. She was getting big. Like the Iowa games were really big. People were going to like bars and stuff to watch it. Yeah, it's just like a lot of new fans and a lot of people being brought from these college games into the WNBA, since a lot of those top rookies are getting in there. And it's well needed. And Caitlin Clark is a very good, like, respected player. She's great. Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, it's like when quite a few years ago when the women's American soccer team got really famous. And ever since then, consistently, people watch women's American soccer because of it. There's like Alex Morgan, who was one of the top players. She retired now? I don't even know. There's a lot of other players. Megan Rapinoe, which if you are a queer, you know who she is.
Of course I know who that is.
I mean, it's nice to see when a women's sport is getting attention because they have such good players that they're just bringing attention to it. American women's soccer. But there's a trend. I'm glad in the last decade or so, maybe a little longer, every once in a while, just really good players come up from either college or just in professional sports in general that are getting more attention to women's sports. But the conversation will come up where, you know, a lot of haters will be all like, oh, no one cared about women's sport. But I'm going to say that it's that no one cares about women, including other women. And that's, I don't know if that's a hot take. It's honestly like the real truth of it. Is that including myself, I should have been going to WNBA games for a long time. I went to a WNBA game. A team that does not exist anymore. I lived in the Bay Area, but I lived technically kind of between, like I lived a little bit closer to San Francisco, but not much further from me was Sacramento the other direction. So Sacramento Kings, everyone was an NBA team. I'm not a Kings fan. Don't come at me. Still a Warriors fan. My brother tried to convince me for many years because he lived in Sacramento. I'm just not a Kings fan, guys. But when I was 10, I played rec league basketball. And if you've ever been to an NBA game or I think most professional sports, but I know NBA for sure. I only know that because I worked in NBA the longest. There's usually sometimes some of the pregame stuff, like there is pregame way before like the game actually starts. And sometimes they have like small youth recreational teams play a little game before like the real pregame and games happen. It's really cute. Usually the kids get like tickets to the game. They get to watch the rest of the game. They get to bring their parents and whatever. I was at a game where I did one of those little rec league basketball things. So it was at the Kings Stadium and arena that this is the old arena, not the new one that exists now in downtown Sacramento. Wow, I forgot Arco Arena does not exist. Well, at least it's not used anymore for basketball. But the WNBA team was the Sacramento Monarchs Kings, you know. And I went to that game, and that was my first. Oh God, I wish I remember who they played. To be honest, I was so young, I barely remember it. But I thought it was fun. Like it was a fun time. It was the first time I'd seen a WNBA game, and honestly, I'm surprised I didn't start going to WNBA games from that point on. But the only team near me was the Monarchs. They were disbanded in 2009, and there is no women's basketball team on that part of the West Coast except for the LA Sparks, and they still exist. But as we've talked about, you just found out too that there's only like 12 WNBA teams.
Right, teams, yeah.
Because there used to be more. At most, the highest number of teams was 16, including the Monarchs. There was a Seattle team, I believe, as well. That was a different name. Seattle.
Yes. There are 12, and there's going to be 13 next year.
Next year, the Warriors are doing a WNBA team. That means the Bay Area is getting a women's team.
That's cool.
I have no idea what their name is going to be. I hope it isn't trash.
Do you think it could be something coinciding Warriors?
I hope so. I mean, I hope so because, you know, Kings and Monarchs was kind of cool. I kind of like that they didn't say Queens. I don't know why. Monarchs sounded kind of cool. It sounds like the monarchy, like a whole... I don't know. I thought that was a little bit cooler. I did see a hater comment and like things about basketball, and it was just basically like, why do women's basketball names suck? They all seem like like Sparks and whatever. Like, how is that even a thing? I was like, NBA team names, there's the Washington Wizards. There's also the Orlando Magic, which also has to do with wizards and witches technically, but no, they're just the Magic. That's not a physical mascot either. I mean, then we have like then we just have like animals like the pelicans and shit like that. I mean, their logo's pretty decent though, and stuff like. I was just like, I think sports teams always kind of have like a few teams that always have kind of silly names. Whatever, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter.
Just a name. It's just a name. You're gonna rep it. You're gonna rep it eventually. If you're from there,
I feel like college sports is where it's the funniest because they're usually just like silly animals. It's like how even really well-known college sports teams like the Oregon Ducks, they're ducks. I mean, it's adorable, but the amount you hear ducks in the West Coast is interesting. But there's a lot of colleges, so there's a lot of just stuff. You know,
I wonder what goes into choosing those names. You know, like what council, what panel has to decide
the team naming. Anyways, Warriors, please don't slip up on the women's team name. I ask of you, as a Warriors fan and a former California resident, please. I think LA Sparks is fine. I mean, it sounds like fireworks when I think of Sparks.
I'm here trying to find out. There's a subreddit here. Team name survey sent out for Golden State. It says, I love Golden State Rush, Oakland Warrior Rest.
No, they're not in Oakland anymore.
We got Golden State Splash. We got Golden State Breakers.
Is this some fan submissions? They're joking, right?
Absolutely.
These are trash, guys.
Golden State Glory, Golden State Express, Golden State Gladiators, Golden State Goldens.
No!
Someone said Golden State Warriors.
Stop.
Warriors.
Man, I gotta see if I still have any connects that might give me any news.
Get yourself an in. Put your name in the bucket. Like let's see if you can see what you can do.
Oh, God. Anyways, they're coming in 2025, so next year. So that's an extra team, which is good. The problem, how the WNBA is set up, the NBA has a lot of teams. And so they have room for rookies to come in. Shit, some of the players don't even fucking play. They still get paid, though. Right. I say that's a win-win for me. Honestly, if I was a bench NBA player and still just getting paid, and because if your team wins a championship and you only played 2 minutes the entire fucking season, you're still getting a ring and you're still getting that money. So,
wow.
I think I want to be a background NBA bench player.
A bench warmer. You want to be a bench warmer,
bitch. As long as I play just good enough where they won't cut me.
Just a good B- the whole time.
Just average.
Just good enough.
Really, like painfully average. If you're painfully average in male professional sports, it's you still set. So far. You're still fucking set so though. Far. You still get a good amount of money. Maybe not as much as the top players, but you're still getting money. So
how gross is that, huh? We got 30 NBA teams in the United States.
And the problem is that the 12 teams, when rookies come on, there will be cuts of people who are already in the WNBA, which is really sad because, you know, they probably worked their asses off to get there as well. But someone like a Caitlin Clark is going to get a spot. So the question is, who's going to get cut? You know, going back to my theory, or not theory, the fact that people just don't really care about women, including other women. And like I said, I myself, I wanted to go to like more games. I just ended up, but truthfully, I don't go to any sports games anymore, really. I'll just be real about that. Ever since I left sports, I don't attend games as much as anymore. I think I'm also over male dominated sports. I still support Warriors though, because that is my team. So here we are. And my family are big 49ers fans in terms of football. And so, I still watch the games. Like, I watch the games. I don't watch sports games as heavily as I used to. I think I'm just a little jaded, working in the industry for a while and realizing I'm not as big of a sports fan as some other people.
That'll do it. That'll do it.
I still enjoy sports, and I still had a great time. And I think I definitely, when I had done that podcast for like Asia Wilson and just women's sports and stuff, what was their podcast? I have to look at it because there's another player.
I found this one called T with A and B.
Yep,
right?
T with A and B.
Okay.
I don't think they use my designs anymore, but they did for that season of the podcast that they had. I know that they I think they mostly use it for social media because they did post on Just Women's Sports with my designs a few times, but I think it was only used pretty shortly.
Okay.
And, I had an old coworker who's the one who hit me up for that project after I left Bleacher Report, but she was really, really just a huge fan of women's sports, and she was always she was a producer, and she was always trying to like get more attention to women's sports stuff and like covering all that kind of stuff. And I think I want to pay more attention and support it more because there should be revenue going to this kind of thing, right. And that way there's options for everyone to watch sports of any sort, whether it's women's sports, men's sports, or whatever it is. It's just something that should be supported a little bit more. And then when it comes to I think the worst part with people not caring about women is that every time even with the success of the WNBA right now, with all the big stuff, even with Caitlin Clark, she's been on TV a lot. She was like on SNL, I think,
really,
and then Steph Curry like fully supports her. A lot of athletes like fully support like really top women's athletes. I mean, the history of like Serena Williams and Venus Williams too.
Yeah.
The amount of articles about Serena Williams being a certain way, or all the hate stuff on her, even though she's one of the greatest athletes ever, but you can see the difference when people talk about her versus a male counterpart, And there's always that average dude who stays at home who's like, oh, I could definitely beat Serena Williams at like this.
Yeah.
Or any random dude is like, I can outplay Caitlin Clark any day. And it's just like, okay.
I think historically, no one has ever taken women seriously in sports. They just like, it's just like not a thing. Like, you can be the best, you can be Serena Williams, and you are still not taken seriously. And to this day, I don't think she's taken that seriously as she should be. Just because,
after I how many Grand Slams, how many awards?
Yeah, like, you just have to like look at the stats, But I think that historically, since men, cis men have dominated sports, and for so long, women just weren't allowed to play sports, or it was seen as like weird or strange.
It just wasn't allowed in general. I mean, not even too long ago, women's had no rights to get their own credit card or their bank. Like, that's just literally the 1900s.
Yeah.
Technically, women's sports, there is proof that, we were stripped of a lot of things until World War I, when men went off to war. And, all those movies that are about them, like when baseball happened. Actually, women's football was very popular during that time. But then after the wars, I think in the 1920s, women weren't allowed to play sports anymore until much later when it was allowed again. It's just crazy in 2024 that this is, I guess, the world in general. Just whenever there's a positive thing, there's always something negative, and especially when it comes to things like women's sports or gay rights or trans visibility, any sort of progression. There's always just I love the internet and hate it so much. I try not to look at comments, but sometimes, I can't help it.
They really get to you, huh? Because there's still some form of bigotry. There's still some sort of sexism. There's still some sort of homophobia. Anything. Like, it's still around. It's like, I feel like it's so arbitrary to say that, you know, we're in 2024 and this is still happening. I think it's just kind of like, unfortunately, if it doesn't happen, then we'll be in a perfect utopian society. And will we be there? I don't think we're ever going to get there. Or not even, I don't think we'll see it in our lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the reason of like when women's rights and sports started getting stripped away, it always had something to do with like if they could bear children, obviously, because women were only seen as basically baby makers.
Yep.
And in this world of just like, there's still men out there who think that, and incels and people who are, you know, Andrew Taint people, and like just think it's funny because you know that like Korea's going through that whole 4B movement of basically not dating men, not doing anything with men. Truly just like, fuck y'all. Like apparently I had talked to someone about it. They're Korean and they go back to Korea every once in a while, visit family and whatever. They live here though, in New York, whatever. They're like, yeah, it's bad over there. Just like the harassment and stuff. And have you seen that whole discourse of the whole bear and man thing in the woods? Bro.
Yes, I have seen it. I just feel like I think it's the fact that men just come on the app and like literally they're just saying like, how could like really getting on there and talking shit about women who would pick the bear over the man.
But there's so many videos too with women having like legitimate videos of like why and explanations. It's just hurt egos being like, it's not logical, blah blah blah. And I was like, they literally told you why and you're still not listening. There actually was a guy who posted a video. It's like, it's amazing to me how many people are still saying like, I don't understand why you would pick the bear, and not just saying maybe we can do better. Like
it's an inside job, guys.
I mean, a lot of it, there's a lot where men are just like, I would also pick the bear because they're like, I am a man and I know how men are, and it's just like, and yet here we are. But it's just this whole thing of just the discrimination against like women's sports, and this isn't even diving into like queer and trans shit either. I mean, this is just like the binary of men and women. It's like a one step forward, 2 steps back kind of situation. Right. I mean, like maybe if we do another episode, I'll go into more like actual history of like women's sports. But I think right now is my venting of just like I said. I mean, other women need to also show up for women's sports as well. The energy that we had for the women's soccer team when they were playing. And
do you think that other women are not supporting women's sports because they don't want to support women's sports specifically, or because they just like don't care about sports at all?
As a person who worked in sports, there's plenty of women. Yeah. Everywhere. I mean, even if it was just women going with their significant other to a game. I mean, why can't you go to a significant other to a WNBA game?
Do you feel like there's enough? Sorry to cut you off. Do you think that there's enough like media coverage of the WNBA games?
No.
Like, do you think that
there was? Again, I should screenshots. I think we need to do another episode, maybe when we're more into the WNBA season. But I should also take screenshots of shit I see, because there's a lot of comments of like, I think Bleacher Report or ESPN, I don't know, some sports coverage thing posted a bunch of stuff about like WNBA stuff, like, oh, Candace Parker, she retired from the WNBA. I knew her when she was on the LA Sparks. She retired on a different team. She's been on 3 different teams, I think. 3 different teams where she won 3 different championships. So that's already like, she's one of the top players ever to play WNBA. I mean, some of the like, WNBA has a great history of like really big players. I mean, in the early 2000s, it was Diana Taurasi. There's also Sue Bird. There's Dawn Staley, who is a coach now, was a huge player as a college player and a WNBA player. There's a lot of people who were great players. I mean, Lisa Leslie, everyone knew who she was when we were kids.
True.
Even if you never watched an LA Sparks game.
Yeah.
You knew who she was. And back then I thought women's sports would get a little bit bigger because I feel like there's always a surge because there's a star player of some sort. If it was a Lisa Leslie, a Candace Parker, a Diana Taurasi, now a Caitlin Clark, it's great, but I think the next step is consistency of like watching all the sports. You don't have to. I think the thing is when you say stuff like that to people who are like haters, they're just like, it's like you're telling them to give up all men's sports or something. It's like, no, porque no los dos? You can just watch this one, but you can also watch this one. Like, people who don't stay open-minded about stuff is like you're telling them that they have to stop these other things, but you're just saying, no, just stay open-minded and do other stuff too. Like, what is the problem with that? And I also think that women don't go to women's sports. I actually think it's like a societal thing because it's not as common too, that we're almost used to not looking for the WNBA tickets or the women's soccer tickets or whatever it is. I've been to tennis matches quite a bit. Well, I haven't been in a long time. I've seen, when I was younger, I'd been brought to a few tennis games. I actually want to go back to a tennis game. They're pretty interesting to watch live, actually, like professional tennis. Yeah. I've also been to professional golf matches. Like, I've been to a lot of random sports things. My family's always been kind of like sports people, mostly football. When I started working in the NBA, they started following the NBA a little bit more. But yeah, they were new fans, whatever. It's fine, guys. I was not. But, and just kind of random sports. My brother liked golf, so I learned a little about golf. I think I watched tennis with my sister many years back. And then I enjoy sports games. They're just kind of fun. I like to watch competition of sorts. And I just find them fun. I think people could even go to women's sports it's like me. Sometimes I go to random concerts if they're cheap, just to just to see stuff, see something new. I mean, if you're just venturing into it, why not? Hey, there's a $40 ticket. It's like, oh, let's just go. Have fun. Watch a game. Yeah. I just think it just wasn't normal to, like, look for the tickets for the women's sports game. And people are used to that. People are really used to looking for... Because the Super Bowl is such a big fucking American sport thing. Even the NBA championship's huge. WNBA, actually, I don't know if people know this, is that a lot of the times, even if you're in the WNBA, they played overseas a lot to make money, essentially. There was a big thing about when Caitlin Clark's contract came out of how low it is compared to, like, an NBA player. Obviously, people are going to argue, it's like, NBA people, like, they bring in all the sales and blah, 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 and they're better. And this is another thing. It's just like the women versus men thing. And I feel like men are people who just try to argue about, like, they're just not interesting. People used to say, like, women's basketball was, like, slow or whatever, and why it's interesting. And I've watched women's basketball, like, on TV mostly, and it's just as fun. I think it's fun. I think it's more strategic. I think there's a lot of, like, just a lot of stuff going on. And I think women's basketball and football were the sports that I grew up with. So they were more things that I watched. It's just the misconception that, like, apparently women are not as good. But anyone at a professional level is going to be interesting to watch, I think, personally. Of course. And I'm a person who, I only played sports up to a high school level, really. But people who play up to a college level know how hard it is to even be in those level of sports ever, It's all a lot of hard work, and there's a lot of people who have athletic ability that I just don't have, and I find it fascinating. It's like, I didn't know how many people couldn't stand on a skateboard, and I do basic shit on a longboard or a skateboard, and they're like, oh, that's cool, and I'm just like, what? And like, I can't stand on a skateboard, and I was like, oh, you just kind of like forget, like, I think skill is just fun to watch. I don't think women's sports are less interesting. I also think that they're at a level that, I mean, do you see how strong Serena Williams is? Yeah, she could crush me.
I'm scared of her, of course. She's an Amazon of a woman.
I mean, even younger players, Coco Gauff, another really big tennis player, she won a Grand Slam against Venus Williams when she was 16? 16? 15? Teenager of sorts.
Wow. Okay.
You know, the skill is there. It's the thing about sports. I know not everyone's a sports person, and that's okay. You don't have to be. I think I'm just a person who's like a big ass nerd, but also like, you called me a jock once, and you're not the first person that's ever.
I still stand on it. I stand on it. I stand on it. You're a jock. It's fine.
I don't know. It just goes into the conversation of just letting people live and like what they like, but also people always come out of the woodwork of just like hating on everything. Like with female athletes, like, oh, I can totally stomp her. Like random man who's eating Doritos at your computer right now. And just like, what? And the thing is, I saw this TikTok about this. They were talking about like, you know, men who are at a professional level don't talk about professional women the way that the average man does. While the average, like a lot of them will kind of hate on women's sports and act like they could do better. An NBA star will give praise to a lot of top female athletes. Like Caitlin Clark right now is, you know, the hot thing. And Kevin Durant, Stephen Curry, a lot of other players have said how good she is, you know? And even that, you know, Candace Parker played for 16 years. So during her career, you know, other players would comment on her, you know? And it's just that it's because these men know what it is to be in a professional sport. And also, when you're comfortable with who you are, you can, you know, it's like game recognize game. When you're good at something, you see someone else that's good at it, that's just like a mutual respect. And it doesn't matter who it is. But I get angered by just dumb men on the internet, and I shouldn't even give them my attention, to be honest. I don't answer them, or I don't write comments or anything, but it's just wild to look at it sometimes.
They're just silly. They're silly, and they're just, because they have a device, they're gonna do with that device whatever they want. But it's a silly boy that really doesn't know much about anything, because it's like you said, if you're playing at a professional level, if you're getting this much attention, these little boys are just hating at this point. I think what's important is that they're getting the attention. You know what I mean? Like, it's like talk all you want. I'm getting the attention. I'm getting the validation and the cosign from these other amazing people. You know what I mean? That have been in this game for a really long time. Like, I don't really know that much about sports. I didn't grow up with sports. Always been a dancer. I guess you could say that
that's
dancing
kind of
is
a
like,
sport of sorts. I
guess you can say it's bit of
physical.
A sport.
It's definitely a physical thing.
100%, it is. I think I've only seen basketball games and baseball games in person. I've never seen any other thing. I feel like
baseball's fun in person, but I'm not a person who would go out of my way to watch baseball on TV.
I wouldn't. I hate watching baseball on TV. It's a fucking snooze fest. I hate it. I can't stand it. But in person, it's fun.
I used to go to like the cheap A's games in Oakland because they would be cheap. And they also had a deal that you could get in the beginning of the year. It got popular after a while, but there was like these $5 Tuesday things, and you would get like some cheap ass tickets and go.
Cool. That's nice. No, I think I went to a couple of my high school's baseball games when I was younger, and then I went to some Yankee game in my 20s. Like Yankee. Honestly, I think it was like Yankee versus like the Red Sox. I think it was supposed to be like a pretty good game. Whatever, but it was fun. It was fun to watch. But yeah, I haven't been to any women's sports games, and not because I don't support it. Of course I support it, but I think it's just because I'm not a sports person, but I want to be, you know, and also mostly because I want to shut people down with my knowledge of it, with my potential knowledge of it, because I want to know more about it so that I could defend it. You know, I want to defend women. I want to defend women's sports. I want to be all up in it. That's why I want to go to these games. I think it's important. I think that it's also word of mouth. It's also word of mouth.
That's what I'm thinking. That's why I said it's not a norm to talk about it. So I feel like the word of mouth doesn't happen with people. And it doesn't get around the way that other sports do, like the NBA and stuff like that, you know? I feel like people need to talk about it more.
I agree.
That's period. Like, whether you go to a game or not, I think you should talk about it. I think it's something that should be talked about. I think, you know what? I feel like people need to stop doing comparisons of like players from like male and female perspectives, because it's just stupid. Because one, you're probably not a professional athlete, just saying. And I don't care if you play. I don't care if you played D1 fucking college sports. All right. You're still not at a professional level. And it's like, whenever they're like, oh, I was a D1 athlete, it was like, I see.
You were. You were. Not anymore.
And, you know, I feel like you should respect more. And if you're coming from the aspect that you were a D1 athlete, it's so crazy to me as another athlete to put other athletes down like that.
Right.
I just think it should just be talked more at the very least. And I don't know, let's fucking start it. 2024, guys, it's going to be a good season. Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Carmilla Cardoso, who else? Lisa Peely.
Let's go. We have... What's her name? Paige something?
No, she's still in college. Paige Beckers.
Oh, she's still in college? Oh,
yeah. Okay. She just went to support. Cameron Brink, who is on the LA Sparks. She actually is like a childhood friend of Stephen Curry's, so obviously she has a support from him. And there's so many other rookies too. I also should have paid more attention to women's sports as well. I know a lot more players. I think I'm brain farting. I should really write notes more with ADHD, and I don't. We need to have another episode when after you finally go to your first women's sports game.
Our next episode will be after the game between the Liberty and Chicago Sky, you said?
Yeah. That's the one on my birthday.
I remembered. Okay, perfect. Okay, so that's our next update about this, and we're gonna have a little sesh that time too. But I think
maybe I'll bring more actual like facts, and you know, maybe it's just a women's and your experience, and maybe like a women's sports appreciation, not just WNBA. Yes. I'll do a bunch of stuff that And let's get more attention to it. With this season that's supposed to be really great after the rookies have already played in the preseason, and seeing how good they are. You know, women's sports are fun and they're great. I think people should just look into it. I mean, even if it's just a casual viewing, it could be a fun thing to watch if you like to watch sports in general. I mean, some people, like I have, like my friend, he watches like all sports. It's college basketball. Like he was getting really into the women's college basketball and really excited for, I think he also bought season tickets for Liberty, which is really funny. But he watches like hockey. Randomly one day we watched rugby one time when we were like hanging out. We just like watch sports. And you don't have to be a sports person. I think just talking about it, maybe watching a game or two here and there, just to watch for watching. You know, I think it just should be talked more. I think people should be encouraged to go to games more. It doesn't have to be your whole personality. It could be a casual thing. It could be a fun night out. If you're queer, definitely go out. Date night. Why not? Me and my girlfriend are going to the first home game. It's a fun time. I just generally think it should just, more support should come. And I think that women's sports needs to get to a point where they do have more teams and have the opportunities that male sports have, or at least get closer. Oh, I forgot to like elaborate on the Caitlin Clark's contract signing, because hers was like $76,000 a year. And yeah, I know, that's your face. When a rookie who's maybe probably a bench player for an NBA is at least $1 million. So, and you know, a lot of people, and the thing is, it brought up conversation though. Obviously, she's going to get money from sponsorships. She did get a sponsorship with Nike, so she's going to get a lot of stuff with that. But that's the thing. She has to do the sponsorships because the sales just aren't going to cover it. You know, it's just, it did start a conversation, though. The internet went wild over it, seeing what her earnings were going to be for the next 4 years of a contract, you know? And I'm sure the Fever would have offered her more if they had money, but they don't. They don't have the money NBA does. And, you know, these women who are, all these rookies, they love the sport, and they're playing the sport, and they wanted to be professional. Right. And they believe in it. And I think that more people need to believe in it. In women's sports, smaller sports, anything.
Let's get the word out, people. Women's sports.
But yeah, I was saying the queers, go to some women's sports game.
Yeah, man. We want to see you there. Wouldn't that be like,
it's, you know, we're for them, obviously. Also, it is a myth that WNBA players are all lesbians, guys. They're just tall and athletic. But a lot of them are gay. But who knows? I don't know. Maybe you go to a WNBA and maybe bag yourself a WNBA lady.
I was going to say, listen, these WNBA games, yeah, it should look like a Kalani concert. Y'all should all
bring
go
that there. Fucking energy.
Bring the same Bailani energy.
Bailani, Renee Rapp energy, Chapel Rowan energy. Actually, Chapel Rowan hasn't officially... She's never said that she's queer, but I don't know. Maybe. But the queers love her. But bring that energy.
All right, period. So we're going to wrap this up because
Do
we're
you
gonna
have any last comments?
Episode.
I feel like I talked most of this. I'm sorry.
I think this was your episode here. This was your episode, and I was just kind of like, I was here by my laptop Googling everybody you mentioned. Like,
okay. We need to do an episode where you talk more just to give that back to you. Give me a subject that you can talk a lot about.
We'll talk about that next time. But we're going to talk more about this after we go to the game. I'm sure I'll have a lot of thoughts then. Let's wrap it up, though. This was a good one. I learned a lot. This was for my education, mainly.
I was all over the place, so sorry. I think I'm very passionate in the fact that I also, like I said, need to go to games more. I like I said, I haven't really gone to sports games in a while, but I think I'm just going to make more appearances at like actual women's sports games. I mean, I wanted to go to a women's American soccer game for a while, but I just never have gone. And I'm really trying to just get it out there. I mean, as a sports fan and as a woman, also as a queer, I mean, open your minds up to just new stuff, guys. Have fun. Right. Who cares what it is? No one's saying you can't go to a Liberty game and then go to a Nets game the same week. I mean, if you like the Nets, I guess.
Yikes. Okay.
Also, Knicks playoffs. If try to get back on the good side of some New Yorkers, at least.
I hear they're playing really well.
They are. I mean, the Knicks made it to the playoffs, which is
it's pretty major, is it not?
Yeah. If you're a non-sports person, it's been a while since the Knicks have been good.
Yeah.
As a person playing in the NBA, there was a couple of players that I thought would bring the Knicks back, but it just never happened. I mean, don't worry. I understand the pain. The Warriors sucked for 40 years until they started winning championships. I mean, they did start going to playoffs a year. I started working there. Coincidence?
Right. Oh, okay.
Hey, I'm just saying, my entire career at the Warriors, we went to playoffs every single year. So that's 5 seasons. So
okay. By the way, Lorrie was your good luck charm. You snooze, you lose. But yes, good stuff.
So you can find us on Spotify and YouTube, audio and video on both. We are on TikToks for as long as we can. If it gets banned or not, who knows? And Instagram, which we have to post more there.
We do.
I say that every time that we haven't. Neither one of us have. Oops.
Oops, sorry.
Send us an email at 30dirtythoughtin@gmail.com. Like I said, send us spam, recipes, memes, a hello, a picture of your cat.
I would like that above anything else. Thank you so much. All right.
Peace.
Peace out, y'all.